Hi everyone, and thanks for joining Lyme Lessons from Home. I apologize in advance for any background noise you might hear. I have a little kitten running around who likes to create some noise. So let's get started. I guess you probably want to know who you're listening to. My name is Jess Steele. I'm the founder of LymeLessons.com. My background that led me here, I had Lyme disease myself, and probably similar to you all, a bit of a struggle overcoming and diagnosing the disease. I noticed some typical bullseye rashes, and I went to my doctor, and it was diagnosed as an allergic reaction and prescribed antihistamines, which basically knocks down your immune system and allowed the disease to fight aggressively within my system. So I went on a course of antibiotics, and over a couple of years, I noticed some pretty harsh side effects from the antibiotics, but not a lot of recovery. So that was a large concern for me, and over a number of doctor visits and research and talking to other Lyme patients, I realized that a lot of the information was really coming from crowdsourcing other patients and listening to other stories, so we could understand who to turn to, which doctors to trust, which systems and guidelines to trust, and really understand what works. So that's how Lyme Lessons was founded, and that's how I came into the picture. I did pursue my certificate in nutritional education as I learned how deeply nutrition is really linked with your overall health and your recovery from diseases such as Lyme disease. So I also want to start with a big disclaimer. I am definitely not a doctor, so please refer to your doctor for all health decisions. This webinar is really just to provide some background and guidance and similar experiences that we can all learn from and use as critical questions to our physicians and complement those directions from your doctor with some healthy lifestyle behaviors that will hopefully speed your recovery time. So I hope to make this pretty quick and to the point and hopefully very impactful. I'm going to run through quickly kind of what the state of recovery looks like now with the typical diagnosis and or lack of diagnosis and recovery, run through what we know works, because really a lot of discussion around Lyme disease is what we know doesn't really work or what we're not sure of. And then finally, 6 areas of health to focus on and a tip for each so you can have some takeaways from this. And lastly, any questions from you? So here's a timeline that you're probably pretty familiar with of a typical series of events that a Lyme disease patient expects. And one thing that's really talked about a lot is our susceptibility to diseases and health conditions either prior to receiving a tick bite or after, and how that affects our recovery. And the other thing that's not talked about too much, but some, is whether antibiotics are the right choices for each of us and why we're still sick even after we take them for many cases, and what's been come to be known as chronic Lyme disease. So here's kind of a word jumble of a lot of the different symptoms that have become so familiar with Lyme disease, and we all know the list is long and variable, but the reason why I bring it up is because we have all these symptoms, and the antibiotics seem to just add to them instead of addressing those symptoms and allowing us to live our lives normally every day. So that's something I think we all need to take a look at and figure out how to address those symptoms while doctors and everyone involved in finding a a more comprehensive cure works to get there. So this is an image we've all become pretty familiar with over the last few months with the Ebola scares. But for the Lyme patient, we've been very familiar with the CDC and their guidelines and the whole debate around Lyme disease, which even the term debate around a chronic disease is really scary and shows that, you know, all of us need help. We need help understanding how to juggle the different people and systems and resources that are available to us and who to trust. And that includes everyone from doctors, specialists, insurance companies, pharmacies, how to interact with our employers when we're sick and not sure if we can do the work that we've been tasked with, and also how to manage the relationships with our families, friends, and support systems, especially when a lot of our lifestyles and relationships have changed. We're not sure, you know, how to manage those anymore. And all of these different pieces we're juggling, you know, there's not really any clear black and white answers out there for the Lyme patient right now, which I found to be pretty scary, and I think a lot of other patients and caretakers feel the same way. So that's, I think, a common experience that we've all had, and the question is, you know, where do we go now? So I think to decide that, what I did at least, and what I think others should try doing is kind of going through what we do know works now. We do know what does not work, which is a lot. We're not sure really for the chronic Lyme patient how well antibiotics really address long-term issues around the disease and how to cure those symptoms. So I think it might be beneficial for the Lyme patient to look at what can complement antibiotics or add to our recovery just beyond medication. I'm not saying you should not listen to your doctor and not take the antibiotics. I'm just saying I think there are some healthy lifestyle habits and things we can do to address feeling better now in addition to those, if that's the route you choose to go. I think all Lyme patients know that there are gimmicks and that we have to be careful. If you ever go to a Lyme disease event, you'll probably hear people talking from everything from essential oils to light therapy, and to each their own. If those work for them, that's great. But I also want the Lyme disease patient to be careful of not being taken advantage of. When people are desperate, they'll really try anything, and they want answers when there might not be any in the service or product someone's necessarily selling. The other lesson I think we have all learned is that we have to be the greatest advocates for our own health, especially with Lyme disease, because you go to one doctor and they'll say, you know, there's no such thing as Lyme disease, which I have heard. And you'll go to another doctor and they'll say you have chronic Lyme disease and it's a huge deal and you have to attack the disease aggressively. So this, to me, tells us that we really have to be proactive about finding the answers that are best for us and not rely on, you know, everything that's out there. One of the important things that I want to discuss today is we know that we need to address the whole body and mind. So, and I'll go more into this, but we can't just address the disease. We have to address the symptoms, the environment, mental health, so many different factors that really go into how someone's feeling when they have Lyme disease. And finally, we need to learn from others, because that's how we're finding answers, crowdsourcing from others' experiences and learning what has worked and what's not working. So I think it's time to kind of turn the page and look past what we've been accustomed to feeling and accepting as good health. I think we can get further in our recovery. So we know all that. So what takeaways can we learn from that? What do we know will work? So we know that a whole bunch of factors, way more than what's up here, really are intertwined with a whole bunch of other factors. And they have really complex relationships that I won't go into now. But if you think back to like Bio 101 from high school class, you'll remember the word homeostasis, which basically means there's a balance between all the systems in your body and how they interact and affect each other. So for instance, one example might be water intake, which is just one small tiny example, but 75% of the U.S. is actually mildly chronically dehydrated, which is a really big deal because it affects things like if you're feeling fatigue or worn out or just not up to your 100%, and it can even have an effect on your ability to do things like basic math problems. So you can see how one just simple thing like water intake can affect your mental health, your energy, so many different things, and all of the systems in your body work very much like that in conjunction with the other systems. So it's really important to look at the whole big picture rather than just attacking a disease. So I know this looks big and scary, but let's make this a bit more simple. And let's focus on 6 areas of recovery to try to balance out all the different systems in an easy and simple way.